I'm gonna be going over the bass in this video for this mix, picking up where I left off. In the two previous videos, we did the electronic drums, then the acoustic drums. This is for the bass. This is a live bass, played bass. Um, Songs Riddles and Secrets, Way Too Deep. Check it out if you haven't already. It's on Spotify and all your other favorite platforms. There's a music video on YouTube. Hit them up on the socials. Follow them. They got more stuff coming out. There's one that's supposed to drop on the 24th of this month. Maybe we'll show some of that in the future. So we're gonna go over the bass in this one. This was tracked with just a DI. I like to get a DI pretty much always for live bass. Sometimes I'll get an amp too. That can be cool. We didn't do that on this one. It's just a DI. It was a 5-string. It has a P bass and Fender Jazz bass pickup in it. I think we used the P bass pickups in it. They usually have a little more low end, and the Jazz pickups have a little more mid range. I'm pretty sure these were the P bass pickups, so it's probably a little fatter, but either one's awesome. So there was only one DI track, but I duplicate the bass, well, depending on the genre and the mix or whatever, but for this mix I duplicated it twice, and then I I have them labeled here sub, mid, and then that's the distortion, and it's all from the same DI. Let me play the song here before we get into it. I don't know what it sounds like. For everybody who hasn't heard it.
You see way too deep. It seems I'm going way too fast. It seems I just may have run the last line. It seems I've fallen. What will happen this time? You see way too deep. You see far too many things. You see way too deep. You see far too many things.
Alright, that's kind of the gist of it. It's the intro, first verse, first chorus. But like I mentioned in the previous videos covering the electronic drums and the acoustic drums, is I have people ask me about mixes and techniques and stuff all the time, and I feel like there's tons of information on YouTube. It's great, but a lot of stuff I come across and I talk to people and they'll be like, oh, I seen this video about how to mix drums or whatever, and it's like I want to show a real mix. Like, this is the mix that went to mastering, right? And a lot of times it'll be like somebody will just throw like a few loops in, and then like, oh, this is how you EQ like a drum loop or a guitar, and it's all about like the context. It's all about like that specific mix and all the other elements that are in it. So if the song's not been produced and like fully written and arranged, a lot of these moves are irrelevant, because it's like mixing, which it's in the name. It's like it's about getting the stuff to work together. So just got a couple loops, and it's like, this is how you EQ a piano loop. It's like that's not really all that useful because it's not setting in a mix. It's not setting in a track. It should be more like, this is how I get this piano and solo to sound good in solo, right? I mean, mixing's about like getting it all to work together. But anyway, enough on that rant. So this is the bass that's in the mix that went to mastering, that's out. This is like the released mix that you can check out, like I said, on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, wherever you like to stream or listen to music, or hit them up on the socials. They got more stuff. We got more stuff coming. But like I said, this is all from a single DI. It was tracked straight into the Universal Audio Apollo X. Sounds great. So I duplicated it into 3 tracks, which is somewhat standard for me. Not always 3. I mean, if it's not an aggressive thing, I may not have like this heavy distortion one. Maybe I'll just have 2 or something. But so then let's solo it up here. Something I'll have to cover too, maybe later on in the series, is like automation, because that plays a big part, at least in the stuff that I do. A lot of this stuff, like I didn't really even show in the drum videos, is it's automated. The parallel stuff comes in and out and up and down and gets turned off depending on the section. Well, with the bass, a lot of times, I don't know if I did it in this song. I don't think I actually even did it in this song. No, that's pretty rare. A lot of times if I have like a ripping bass, depending on the part, if it like mellows out somewhere, I might turn that distorted track way down, or even mute it until the section changes and it's like aggressive again, because it's like, if the part doesn't call for like a ripping bass, it's like I don't want that distortion running through there all the time. And this system works well for me because I have way more control. If I had just a single bass channel and I had like a distortion on it or something split, then it makes it much harder to automate that on and off. If I turn it off for a certain section, the volume's going to change, the tone's going to change. This is just, to me, this just is the best way that I've found to do it. So I can play just the original raw DI here, I think. Let me see. Here's what that sounds like. Let's just take it to somewhere that makes sense. I think this is a chorus. So that's just a raw DI track from the bass, with the pick. I mean, the strings aren't brand new, they're relatively new. Sounds pretty good to me. All right, and then like I said, I duplicated it 2 more times. So these are 3 of the exact same bass take. And I'm surprised that those are off. But anyway. And then I will usually compress it. Let me take this stuff off again, actually, so I can kind of just walk through this process. And I'll usually compress it a bit. I'm just trying to even it out. I mean, sometimes bass players can be super uneven. Like sometimes I'll have to like really compress it to get it evened out, to get it to this place where this one is after this compression. But this one's pretty even. I mean, to me, that's a big part of the goal when tracking basses. It's ideal to get something that's pretty even. If it's all over the place, then it's like, yeah, I mean, it's usable, but you really gotta. I mean, I'm already using a lot of compression on bass anyways, and that's when it's pretty consistent. When it's not consistent, I mean, I'm using a ton of compression, but one's pretty consistent. So it's like I'm probably getting a couple dB. Oh, more than I thought. think the side chain's on. Yeah, I'm using that side chain. I'm high passing it, so I'm high passing the detector at 100, which basically is making it focus on everything above 100 because this is the distorted track. So it's like I'm really only going to be using, I'm not going to be using the low end from it. So I'm really only concerned with like the mid to high end. So I'm compressing that a couple dB, 4 to 1, slowish attack, slow, medium, slow release. And I'm just getting a couple dB of compression. I'm getting like, yeah, 3, 4, 5. And these are all relatively the same. I think they've all probably got the same compressor settings on it. Well, those two. The sub one doesn't because I'm planning on using the low end from this sub track. So the side chain is on. Oh no, it's okay. So it's just the same exact compressor. Pasted it. I found a good setting on one that gave me what I wanted. Helped even it out, and then I just copied and pasted it to the other three. So they're still both the same track. They're all three the same so far, with the same compression on them. I should start down here at the other end. So for the sub track, so then it's like I'm low passing it at 175 because all I want's the low end from that. Got a little R bass on it at 78 to just help that low end kind of show up in smaller speakers, and it makes it sound like there's more low end than there is. I don't really know how it works, but it's a cool plugin. Then I got some more compression because I want that low end really consistent. So I got what 5 dB, 3 to 5 dB compression on the first compressor. Low passed it, compressing it again, getting like 3 more dB. And then this gain is here. The only thing I'm using on this gain is the phase invert because these other two channels have amps on them and the sub channel doesn't. So a lot of times, not always, you have to be careful because like on this one I had to flip the phase on it because it was out of phase because these ones are using cabinets and this one's not. But that's my sub channel. And then I have my mids channel, that compressor I was talking about. I threw an amp on there. For this one, since I'm only going to be using the mids of it, I'm looking for, an amp setting or sound that I like in the mids because that's all I'm going to use. So I'm not really concerned with how the low end sounds. I'm not concerned with how the top sounds because I'm only using the mids. So I like this one. It sounds cool to me. And then I'm compressing that to even it out even some more. Couple dB. Oh, that sounds sweet. I like that one. I have to remember that setting. And then I'm just rolling off the super low at 30. A lot of times I'll take it up higher. I'm actually surprised I'm using that much of the low end. A lot of times I'll take it up to like 220 or something. But I guess I kept all of it. I kept all of it in this one except for 30, below 30. So I must be using that. In this track, I guess I'm using that for like the main bass sound, and then I'm just using the sub to supplement. I'm just sneaking a little bit in. Sometimes I'll roll off, like I said, more of the low up to maybe like 200, and I'm using the sub track for pretty much all of the low information in that mid channel for specifically the mids. But in this one, it looks like I use the mid channel for like a bigger percentage of the bass sound as a whole, and then I'm supplementing with the sub track. And then the distorted track. You've seen that compression that's on all of them to begin with. and then I'm high passing it at 175 because that super low stuff doesn't sound good when you distort it. A lot of times you want to get rid of that. I mean, I'm going to get rid of it anyway, but it's nice to get rid of it before you hit the amp because it just sounds better. And then you can use anything for this. I'm using this, whatever, Tone Forge Menace. Sounds pretty aggressive and distorted and raw. That's what I'm looking for. And then I'm high passing it again because I don't want anything in it besides looks like above 500 hertz. So it's like the only thing I'm keeping from that is 500 hertz up. So then I'll add them in. Here's the sub, and then the mid, and then the distortion. Right, and that gives me a lot of options. If there's a mellow section, like I was saying, I can just turn down the distorted track or mute it, right, with automation. And then it gets heavy again and on it goes. Or maybe there's a part where I don't want a bunch of low end in it. You know, I can turn on the sub track and it's more mid range and high end, and then when I want it, I bring the low end back in. Same with the mid. I don't know, maybe there's a section that all I want is just sub information, you know, and then kick it up. Then on the bus here, I'm rolling it off at 58, high cut at 4K. It's like that's about it. Yeah, 58 hertz on the high pass. You don't need all that information. I mean, I feel like that's happens a lot when you're first starting out, is you think that, oh, it's a bass, like, you know, it's in the word bass, like you want the bass, and it's like, oh yeah, of course you want bass. I mean, it's supposed to hold on the low end, but you necessarily don't need the bass to go all the way down to 0 hertz. I mean, you don't want all that necessarily. You know, I feel like the kick, to me, a lot of times the kick lives down there and the bass is above it. Sometimes you do it the other way around, depending on the song. Sometimes the bass lives down there and the kick's above it. But in this track, and I would say, for me, more times than not, the kick lives at the bottom and the bass is just above it. So I'm rolling it off at whatever that was, 50, 58, right? And there's still information below 58, but it's just being rolled off. So it's not like there's nothing down there. It's just rolling it off, you know. There's that, and then I got this 3A. 3dB. To me, in my mind, I'm thinking of that as I'm just trying to glue them together, you know what I mean? So, because I don't want them to sound like 3 separate basses. I want them to sound like one bass, and they've just been malted out into separate frequency ranges, you know, low end, sub, mid, high. You know what I mean? But after I separate them all out and treat them how I want to treat them, I want to glue them all back together so it sounds and feels like one bass. I got a limiter, just more leveling it out, keeping it consistent. I feel like in a bass, a lot of times you don't want a bunch of dynamics. You know, I don't want it loud and then quiet and then loud and then I can't hear it. Did they stop playing or is it off? Or you know what I mean? It's like I want it consistent. And this, it looks like I did a side chain on this, which I don't do all the time.
You see way too deep. You see far too many things. You see.
Yeah, so I side chained it to the kick, and it's just taken out.
You see way too deep.
Yeah, it's just shaving off like 3 dB. But what's cool about this one is this is a multi-band, so it's only side chaining the low end. So when that kick hits, it's only taking out 250 and down. It's not taking out the whole bass. And now that I think about it, listening to the track, I think the reason why I did this is because it has those layered drums in it. It has like a sub kick in that electronic kit that's already playing underneath the acoustic drum. So if I mute the bass, I'll solo up these drums here. Yeah, that's already got that subby low 808-ish type kick bass drum. And then you got the acoustic drums on top of it. So I assume I'm thinking that's why I did that. So I sidechained that low end of the bass to the kick drum because I've got that electronic kick that's already got a ton of sub in it. If I didn't have that electronic drum kit layered underneath there, I probably wouldn't be sidechaining the low end of the bass to it because I would leave it so it fills it out. But because of that sub kick under there, it's just too much. You know, I can't have a bunch of that sub bass from that electronic kick, and then I got a bit of sub bass from the acoustic kick, you know, and then have the bass having a bunch of sub information going on as well. It just turns into a big mess. So that's why. So that's sidechain there. And then the gain, I'm not sure what I did with that. I think that must be for automation. A lot of times I'll leave a space if I'm using it for automation so I know what it's doing. Because like that, you open it up and it's like, oh, there's nothing going on here. Like, just end up accidentally deleting it. So I started leaving a space so I know that what's going on with it. I'm using it for automation. So let's see. Here's this. Where's the automation? Okay, looks like it's just one tiny move over here. I'm just turning it down. It looks like I'm turning down the whole bass bus, not like an individual frequency range. Not like, you know, just the distortion or just the mids or just the sub. It's turning down the whole bus.
Burning my flesh with it.
Okay, and it's building it back up into like that next section. That looks like the only spot that I even used automation on that. And as far as the bass goes, that's the bass sound for this track. I'll play it with some drums. Yeah, so that's the bass mix on this track. Riddles and Secrets, Way Too Deep. If you have any questions, hit me up. Subscribe, like, leave a comment. Got any questions, let me know. Video suggestions, I'd love to hear them. You know, I'm always interested in what people want to see, what they want help with. You got any questions about your own productions, or you need any help with your own productions, hit us up, send me a message. Check out Riddles and Secrets. They got we got new stuff coming this month, so new track coming. And I'm Brandon here at Sleeper Cell Studio. Peace out.